Even the McDonald's in San Francisco is now closing down. And come on, when you have business so bad in a city to the point that McDonald's closes down, that's not really exactly the best sign, because McDonald's are usually known for like cheap food that's pretty good. And usually in bad economic times, McDonald's usually does pretty good, right? But imagine a city where like there's nobody there anymore. Like there's no tourists, there's barely anyone living there, office workers are gone. Even McDonald's is going to be closing down. So a downtown San Francisco McDonald's has closed after nearly 30 years on Front Street. This is actually a pretty decent location in the corporate area of San Francisco. And what the franchise owners is saying is the office building vacancy rates are crazy high. Like it's way higher than what they actually reported as, which is 35%. Like I've been talking about the vacancy rate for quite some time. I really do think the vacancies are like 50, 65%. Instead of like what they're saying, like 35%, because you still have a lot of these offices being leased out currently, but there's no office workers. It's just like 181 Fremont, for example. Facebook is still leasing that for the next few years, but they've already vacated like 500,000 square feet. All their office workers are gone. And the visitor trends, there's no visitors. Surprisingly, visitors usually like to go to McDonald's. It's cheap, it's fast, and it's pretty simple. And San Francisco has its ups and downs for the past several decades, right? And this franchise owner probably have seen all sorts of crazy things since the 90s to now. You got recessions, bad economic times. You got the dot-com bubble in '01. You also have like the '08 bubble pop. And now you also have like the 2021 during the pandemic. But this time in 2023, this McDonald's has finally closed down, because the crime is just simply off the charts. If you look at what's going on here, there's barely anyone living in this place. San Francisco's high-rise apartment building, we're not even talking about offices. We're talking about an apartment building, loses half its value to $264 million in the last 5 years. Imagine you own this skyscraper, you built it back in 2018. It was worth like over $500 million bucks, right? Specifically $543 million. Now it's only 50% off. That's a crazy valuation here. And that valuation isn't wrong, because if you really look into some of the cities around the United States, many other properties, especially offices, are going down in price. And NEMA is the same exact thing. If you check out NEMA San Francisco, this isn't a bad building at all. In fact, this building's location is fantastic. This is a NEMA building. It's a skyscraper. It's pretty good looking. It's right next to X, or I guess it used to be called Twitter. It's actually very close to other offices. It's close to Reddit. It's close to the Uber HQ in this area. And it's also close to Lyft, just to name a few. And this is Market Street. This is where all the office workers traditionally be walking around all the time. And this is like one of those units where a lot of guys at Twitter, a lot of the guys at Uber rent this place because it's nice. You just walk to work. It's literally just like a crosswalk and you get to your office. So this building is very popular. So it's not like a bad building in a bad part of town in a terrible location. I could probably say it's a really good location for all the other companies surrounding it. So the mere fact that when someone told me that NEMA is taking a fat dump in price is something that's pretty scary. And WeWork is going bankrupt, files to abandon 7 Bay Area leases, and just in San Francisco alone, they're going to be abandoning like almost 1 million square feet. And then you also have like I said before, the McDonald's, right? This is a serious issue because usually these stores, they survive anything. You can almost call McDonald's like cockroaches. I don't want to be rude, but like I said before, no matter how bad a recession gets or how bad a city gets, usually the McDonald's does fine. But San Francisco is a whole different beast, right? This is a very unique situation where even very cheap restaurants like McDonald's, CVS, Walgreens are all going down. We're also seeing heightened amounts of crime. So traditionally, you got places like Dollar General, CVS, Walgreens, they tend to do pretty well, even in rough neighborhoods. But San Francisco shoplifting is on a whole different level. Even those stores have closed down. In fact, San Francisco has closed down like 2 Targets and several Starbucks. Even the Starbucks, can you imagine that? That's not normal, because when you have high-end cafes and Targets closing down, it means that you don't have any more office workers. Who buys Starbucks in the middle of the day? It's usually office workers in San Francisco, right? It's usually people who are willing to pay $4 or $5 for a cup of coffee. Even Starbucks is taking a fat beating in this situation. And it's not just like these chains taking huge beatings, but also have small mom and pop stores, small restaurant owners being stuck in a doom loop. San Francisco is saying that crime, drug abuse, and low tourism are destroying businesses, and sales are down 50% in some areas. And this is a big deal because a whole section of restaurants in Valencia Street are actually filing for bankruptcy. In Valencia Street, for example, in San Francisco, in the Mission, back in the old days, like before the pandemic, people actually fight tooth and nail to get one of these empty spots on Valencia Street because you're basically guaranteed good business if you have just decent food. But now Valencia Street has a bunch of empty storefronts, which nobody wants. And a lot of businesses here even say that the Mission, every single week, there's always a couple of restaurants closing. This is not a good place to open a business at all. You even have people saying that if they could go back in time just a few years ago and just rewrite their own history, they would never rent a place in San Francisco, probably in other areas. You don't really see this sort of economic collapse in other cities. Even Chicago, as bad as it is, downtown Chicago is doing pretty well in terms of tourism, and also the restaurants are doing pretty well, right? New York City, people say how people are leaving New York State, but in fact, Manhattan is having some of the best construction years ever, and businesses are still flocking in. Even Seattle, people keep saying Seattle housing prices will go down, but at the very least, businesses aren't exiting the city as fast as San Francisco and Oakland, and that's just what's going on. I think San Francisco really needs some really big changes to get these up and running again. And I don't really know what to say because every single business owner talks about how they just really want the tourism to come back up. They want the office workers to come back, and that's only for them to stay in business, but nobody's going to come back. If the cities look like this half the time, right? This is what the Tenderloin looks like. This is what it looks like to walk to work every day for some people in San Francisco. And people are like, oh, this is just in the Tenderloin district. Not really, right? You're seeing a lot of tents, a lot of homelessness, all sorts of crazy stuff happening in the Mission District where all these restaurants are. It's happening a lot in the Civic Center, which is where Twitter, Uber are headquartered. It's even happening a lot in downtown, Nob Hill, and other better parts of the Bay Area. And this type of scene used to be not as common in San Francisco before the pandemic. Now it's being very, 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 very common. And we're also seeing the budget cuts coming in. Law enforcement budget cuts of 20 to 30 million. Health department is also cutting by almost $30 million. And just those alone is going to absolutely take a huge toll in the city. I don't really think the city should be cutting any budgets. I know they don't really want to go into budget deficit. But hey, if you cut these budgets even more workers are leaving. And many of these workers are not coming back, right? Even Google has canceled some of the biggest construction projects in American history for corporate towns. Google thought about investing $15 billion in the Bay Area the next decade for buildings and housing at downtowns. Google has now fully canceled that plan, and that's some scary stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. Comment below. What do you guys think about this so far? McDonald's closing down. It's honestly a bigger thing than you think. See you guys later.